Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something honestly pretty fascinating. We're going to decode the invisible web that practically governs our daily lives. It's so easy to just go through our routines and assume everything just kind of happens on its own, right? But human society is literally this incredibly complex puzzle. Our lives are shaped by our environment, by institutions, by economies, and by traditions passed down for generations. So today, we're demystifying these hidden systems and getting right down to the foundation of what it actually means to study social science. Here's a quick roadmap of what we're covering today. First, the web of everyday life. Then, the ancient roots of inquiry. Followed by geography and history, politics and economics. And finally, why social science actually matters.
All right, part 1, the web of everyday life.
Let's start with a really simple question. Have you ever actually thought about your breakfast? Seriously, I want you to just pause for a second. Think about the incredible, totally unseen journey your food took just to reach your plate this morning. It's wild, because we completely take it for granted, don't we? But society definitely doesn't just function by chance.
Think about the sheer number of hidden steps required for just your morning routine. The food you ate didn't magically appear out of thin air. It was carefully harvested by farmers, maybe halfway across the country. Then it was processed in facilities, transported by drivers over roads built by public authorities, and finally bought and sold in your local market. It's crazy to think about, but your simple bowl of cereal represents this massive, synchronized web of human cooperation, economic activity, and governance.
And you can really see this brilliantly capturing that exact concept. There's this incredibly seamless transition from untouched nature, the rivers, the open fields, flowing straight into factories, infrastructure, and eventually right into the towering skyscrapers of a dense cityscape. Even our simplest daily habits rely heavily on this massive interplay between nature, economic production, and social cooperation. It's all just one giant connected story.
Section 2. Ancient Roots of Inquiry.
Now, systematically studying this connected story, that is not a new thing at all. Take this ancient Indian philosophical concept, the Panchamahabhutas. This is the idea that the world is made up of 5 fundamental elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. And what's really amazing about this is that it wasn't just some abstract philosophy. It was a really early, systematic attempt to understand nature as this deeply interconnected system that human life is totally embedded in. I mean, long before modern environmental science was even a thing, early thinkers were using this exact framework to figure out how our environment dictates where we settle, how we build, and even what we eat.
And that builds into an even broader social idea with the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which beautifully translates to the world is one family. Think about how profound that is for a second. It perfectly expresses the deep interconnectedness of human societies across completely different regions and cultures. That sense of global interdependence, that is exactly what modern social scientists are looking at today when they study global interactions. Our modern questions have some seriously ancient roots.
Moving on to Section 3, Geography and History. So how do we actually study this massive human family today? Well, we use modern disciplines to break it down. On one side, you've got geography, which studies space and location. It asks where things are, why they're there in the first place, and how human communities actually interact with their physical surroundings. On the flip side, history studies time and change. It looks at the human past and asks when and how societies evolve, adapt, and transform over centuries. So together, they totally integrate the where with the when.
To do this kind of work, geographers rely on some incredibly advanced tools. For example, the School Bhuvan portal is a geospatial technology tool that lets students and researchers map out specific regions of India. It helps them investigate the physical landscape to answer some really critical questions, like why do certain regions flourish agriculturally while others focus way more on trade? Or why are some areas so prone to floods? Tools exactly like this help us map out the hard evidence.
Now, let's look at how historians gather their evidence. Modern historiography relies more and more on empirical evidence, stuff we can actually observe and verify. By comparing literary sources, like a manuscript of the ancient Samaveda text, with physical archaeological sources, like a terracotta figurine from the ancient Sindhu-Sarasvati civilization, historians can piece together a remarkably accurate picture of what our social reality looked like thousands of years ago. It's literally like a giant puzzle coming together. Section 4. Politics and Economics.
So if geography and history set up the stage and the timeline, political science studies how that stage is actually governed. It analyzes how power gets distributed and exactly how decisions affecting millions of people are made.
And Indian political thought has a uniquely holistic approach to this. If you go back 2,300 years to texts like the Arthashastra, political authority was always deeply tied to public welfare and ethical responsibility. Power wasn't just some privilege, it was a duty to the people. And, you can still see that legacy today in grassroots democratic structures, like India's Panchayati Raj system, which directly empowers citizens right at the local village level. And of course, closely tied to politics is economics, the study of how societies manage their limited resources. Let's just map out India's incredibly dynamic economic history for a second. Centuries ago, India was a leading global economy, right? A massive hub of world trade. Then comes the colonial era, bringing massive disruption, poverty, and a huge decline in traditional industries. After independence, the absolute monumental task of rebuilding kicked off. And in recent decades, we've seen this incredibly rapid progress in tech, infrastructure, and poverty reduction. Economics essentially lets us track this distribution of wealth over time, and it highlights the real challenges we still face in building a fair society.
Finally, Section 5, Why Social Science Matters.
We've covered ancient philosophies, mapping tools, historical artifacts, and economic shifts, but what's the actual payoff here? Well, it's summed up perfectly in this thought. When you understand how governments function and how decisions are made, you are better prepared to participate responsibly in civic life. Because honestly, this isn't just academic trivia. When you really grasp the complex social, historical, and economic webs we just walked through, you gain the power to ask truly informed questions about public health, the environment, and your own community. It literally empowers you to act as a responsible, active citizen in a democracy.
Because at the end of the day, social science connects the past, the present, and the future. By studying how past decisions shape the world we're standing in right now, we are so much better equipped to make wiser choices for tomorrow. Which brings me to one final, really vital question for you to consider today. Now that you can actually see the invisible web surrounding you, how will your choices shape the future? Because today's actions are quite literally tomorrow's history. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.